Amazing twist. Millionaire CEO's son reveals a touching secret, choosing the MAID over socialites. Ethan Reynolds stood alone in the grand, gleaming foyer of his family's Manhattan penthouse. The city sprawled beneath him, a magnificent landscape of glass and steel, each structure a symbol of wealth and status. Yet inside him churned a tempest of conflict. His father, a formidable CEO, expected him, demanded him, to follow the preordained path toward the family empire, but each day felt like a shackle, the weight of expectations pressing down on him like an iron vice. With each lavish party and forced smile among his father's socialite associates, he felt a deeper yearning, an aching void for authenticity amidst a life curated entirely by privilege. He often found solace in the embrace of Maria, the dedicated maid who had become his confidant and anchor after his mother's untimely passing. In the glow of warmth from her kitchen, they shared meals filled with wisdom that stretched far beyond gourmet ingredients. "People don't always see the road we walk, Ethan," she had told him, stirring a pot of simmering sauce. "But it's those struggles that shape who we are." He'd smile then, cradling the comfort she offered, but doubt gnawed at him. What did it mean to choose devotion to her dreams over the glittering, hollow ideals that surrounded him? It was a question he couldn't shake while flipping through old family documents one quiet evening, a momentary respite from his lavish life. Among musty papers revealing his father's grand schemes, he stumbled onto a forgotten letter from Maria. Therein lay her painful past, a sacrifice made for family, a life spent in servitude, yet brimming with dreams unfulfilled. Ethan's heart clenched. Her struggles mirrored his own, cloaked beneath layers of opulence. He wrestled with the visceral impact of her truth, choosing comfort derived from wealth versus the genuine connections that filled his void. How could he dare to embrace ambition when his conscience questioned his loyalties? At a recent soiree, laughter echoed off gilded walls as guests scoffed at the idea of giving back to society. He felt a flush of indignation rise within him. "Waste of time," his father remarked, the words sharp enough to cut. Ethan's resolve flickered with every pretentious laugh that ricocheted around him. What did success mean if it was not built on bridging the gap between those who had and those who had not? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the depths of that internal chaos, he thrashed against the confines of familial loyalty. The lavish life, filled with praise and adoration, had built a prison. He clenched his jaw, muscles tense at the thought of his father's reaction during their next family dinner. Would he even dare to speak up to echo Maria's dreams, a simple wish dismissed by high society? His resolve threatened to buckle under scrutiny. A storm of emotion swelled inside him. Hope mingled with dread. Desperation collided with determination. As he sat at the dinner table, where his father's steely gaze met his, Ethan felt the room pulse with expectation, as if the air had thickened. Suddenly everything felt too tight, too stifling. He opened his mouth, grounding himself against the wavering thoughts sloshing around like water against glass. But no sound escaped. Would he choose a path that would alienate him, fracture his relationship with the very foundation of his identity? Or would he remain the dutiful son, sealing away his truth? Time froze for an excruciating moment as he faced their relentless stares, each poised breath amplifying the stakes. The roaring silence hung heavy in the air, urging him to make a choice. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest, each unresolved thought crackling in the silence. The weight of the moment pressed against him, drawing lines between his father's expectations and his own deep-seated ambitions. He could sense the glances, his father's silent reproach, his mother's absence and unspoken judgment, and the acute awareness of how estranged he had become from their world. When he finally spoke, his voice wavered. "Dad, I don't think it's enough anymore. Just making money isn't enough." The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered. His father's brow furrowed, eyes narrowing in disbelief. "Ethan, what are you saying? Success is about power, influence, and legacy. You should want to continue what we've built." "Built on what?" Ethan pressed, the adrenaline surging through him. "A facade? All those parties, the elitism? I don't want to be part of that any longer." Silence enveloped the room, thickened by Ethan's revelation. The discomfort was palpable. Even the elegant chandelier above seemed to quiver in anticipation. His father's mouth twisted, a blend of anger and incredulity brewing behind his composed exterior. "Your friends, the people you're mingling with, they won't understand you. This authenticity you seek will cost you everything," he countered, his voice freezing. Ethan's thoughts raced. Would choosing honesty over comfort lead to isolation? Would he truly stand alone if he voiced his beliefs? In that moment, a distant thought nudged at him. Maria had always believed in the power of dreams. It ignited a flicker of conviction. "I want to make a difference," he articulated, the statement gaining momentum. "I want to find purpose beyond this lifestyle." His father recoiled as though struck. "Purpose? You think you can walk away from this life toward what? Serving some delusion? You don't have the first idea what struggles look like." Burning a blend of resentment and clarity, Ethan felt the walls of his upbringing constricting more than ever. "Maybe not, but I do know that there are people out there, like Maria, who are living those struggles daily, hidden behind the smiles of our lifestyle." "What do you propose, a charity for the lost causes?" His father scoffed, sarcasm dripping from his tone. Ethan clenched his fists. "Why not? What's the point of our wealth if it isn't used to help those who need it most? I've seen how giving back can transform lives. It's worth fighting for." Clarity surged within him as he dared to confront the very foundation of his family's ideals. Despite the imposing figure of his father, Ethan felt a newfound tenacity, one that he had been stoking in secret. The thoughts of Maria's unfulfilled dreams flashed vividly in his mind. Her strength had been a compass, guiding him toward his own aspirations. As the night played out with the swirling tensions and hushed responses surrounding him, Ethan started envisioning what change might look like. Perhaps he could create initiatives to pair young, aspiring entrepreneurs with mentors from his world, bridging the gap of disparity through shared knowledge and networks. Yet just beneath the surface, uncertainty bubbled. Could he really embark on this path against his father's wrath? The thought disarmed him momentarily, but the recognition of his own potential began to overpower the fear. Enough is enough, he thought, a mantra solidifying in his mind. Even as his father's voice morphed from incredulous to furious, the air shifted within Ethan. His pledge was forming, bolstered by the intersection of personal conviction and the influence of the capable maid who had helped shape his values. Around him, the opulent dining room shimmered, but it no longer felt like home. Instead, it became a threshold, a point of no return. The choice to embrace his reality and step into an uncertain future beckoned him. What remained unclear was whether he would emerge victorious or shattered by his own rebellion. Would he navigate this unexpected revolution, or allow it to slip away? As the laughter of partygoers echoed from afar, a question hung heavily in the air. Where would his next move take him? The struggle between ambition and belonging was about to unfold, and Ethan had to decide if he was ready to walk that path toward authenticity. Little did he know, the whispers of his past would soon challenge everything he thought he knew about himself, and the person he had yet to become. The following days submerged Ethan in a swirling current of introspection. He avoided family gatherings, his heart heavy with the repercussions of his bold confrontation. The echo of his father's incredulous voice haunted him, a constant knot in his stomach while the faces of friends born into privilege loomed like specters, reminding him of the connections he was preparing to sever. Deep down, however, he felt a spark igniting a fire of purpose within him. At first, he translated this into ideas on how to implement change, organizing mentorship programs, creating platforms for genuine conversation about socioeconomic disparities, and gathering like-minded individuals who wanted to be part of a mission greater than their inherited wealth. It felt thrilling, yet terrifying. Each thought carried the weight of responsibility. Ethan sought solace at the local community center where Maria worked, not just to escape the chaos of his familial obligations, but to immerse himself in a world unfamiliar, yet strangely invigorating. Every Saturday, he volunteered alongside her, listening intently to the stories of those seeking a path out of their circumstances. Their resilience convinced him that he could use his resources for a greater purpose. In the small room filled with sewing machines, the elderly women crafted colorful quilts, while young men shared business ideas hoping to break the cycle of poverty. Maria, with her hands busy stitching together pieces of fabric, was a beacon of encouragement. "Ethan, they trust you. You have the connections and the voice to help them," she encouraged one afternoon. Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket, shielding him from the looming doubts that threatened to consume his resolve. Yet even in this supportive environment, Ethan wrestled with internal struggles. Each time he turned the corner away from the community center, an invisible thread pulled him back to the luxurious life he had known, all the privilege, the parties, the power. Those moments of doubt clawed at him, whispering that his aims were unrealistic, that he would drown in failure while his father laughed from the sidelines at his folly. But as he continued volunteering, he started experiencing the raw weight of reality when he listened to the aspirations painted at the center. He was not just a spectator anymore. He had become a catalyst, a bridge connecting two worlds that rarely intersected. The idea blossomed within him that he could serve as two personas, the privileged son and the connector of dreams. One evening, deep in thought, he scribbled down his aspirations and strategies, the pages filled with a growing optimism. He was developing a plan to organize an event that would bring community members and affluent mentors together, an opportunity to foster relationships, encourage collaboration, and give aspiring entrepreneurs a fighting chance. But just as he felt momentum, lingering unease crept back in when he imagined how his father would react to his newfound ambitions in establishing a platform for aiding underprivileged talent. Would he be met with more scorn? How would he justify his mission when the very foundation of his family's ideals was at stake? And then his phone rang, shattering the stillness. It was Maria. "Ethan, we need to talk. There's something I've been meaning to tell you," she said, the urgency in her tone igniting both curiosity and anxiety. "What is it?" he questioned, his heart pounding. "It involves the community and how we've been perceived. There are changes coming, and I think we can either help or get lost in the chaos," she replied, her voice steady yet laced with trepidation. As they arranged to meet, Ethan felt as if he were standing at the precipice of a new chapter. Would this revelation force him to confront his fears, or would it propel him further into the uncomfortable truth of who he really was? The answer loomed near, chilling and exhilarating. He grasped the phone tightly, bracing himself for whatever truths Maria was about to unveil. With every beat of his heart, he sensed the point of no return was approaching, and he had to choose whether to leap into the unknown or retreat into the safety of familiarity. Ethan arrived at the coffee shop, each step heavy with anticipation. The faint aroma of roasting beans mingled with the chill of the evening air, invigorating yet unnerving. He spotted Maria seated at a corner table, her brow furrowed in concentration. As he approached, he noticed a stack of papers sprawled before her, a chilling symbol of the ambition they were about to address. He slid into the chair opposite her, searching her eyes for a hint of the news she carried. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low. Maria took a deep breath, her lips pressing into a thin line, gathering her thoughts like assembling evidence in an argument. "Ethan, things are changing at the center. There's been talk of funding cuts and structural shifts. It's affecting everyone. The programs, the community, the hope." The words hit Ethan like a cold wave. He had imagined challenges, but not the prospect of dismantling the very foundation he'd begun to believe in. "What does that mean for us?" he asked, barely finding the will to finish. "We can't afford to continue the same way we have. Without support, it could all fall apart," she said, her voice tightening with urgency. "I think we need to rally people, share our story. If we show them what's at stake, maybe we can find a way to secure funding or even gain new supporters." Ethan's mind raced. The safety of anonymity was crumbling, revealing the path ahead strewn with vulnerability. You mean tell everyone about our project? About the needs of the community? Exactly, Maria replied, her eyes brightening. But it has to come from you, Ethan. You have influence. You know how to engage with decision makers. If you speak, people will listen. Her faith in him felt like both a lifeline and a burden. Did he possess the grit to navigate the intricacies of advocacy, especially when it would inevitably pit him against the entrenched beliefs of his family? The thought of confronting his father was daunting, yet the lurking desperation of those who relied on him ignited a fire within. I could write a proposal, maybe even organize a presentation. Ethan pondered, his fingers drumming on the table as he formulated a strategy. But how do I reach out to people who might not see value in this? Maria leaned forward, her tone growing earnest. You frame it not just as a project, but as a chance for potential benefit across both communities. Social responsibility blending with business innovation. You have the privilege to make them curious. The potential to provoke that curiosity is your greatest asset. Ethan nodded slowly, each word sinking in like rocks being cast into a vast ocean. But I have to be honest. My family will oppose this. My father won't understand. His voice quivered with doubt. Honesty is your strength, Maria replied, her conviction unwavering. They might surprise you. It could be the bridge needed to create a dialogue between these worlds. Ethan fought the impulse to retreat, staring at the papers scattered before them like opportunities waiting to be discovered. Diving into this endeavor would mean rejecting the passivity that once defined him. He had the power to reshape perceptions, not just of the community but of himself. After a moment of silence, he exhaled deeply. Let's do it. Let's show them what we can achieve together. As he spoke, a wave of determination surged within him, a stark contrast to the paralyzing fear that had dominated his thoughts. He envisioned the power of his voice resonating within boardrooms, generating conversations rooted in empathy. But just as the horizon of possibility became clear, a lingering shadow of uncertainty cast doubt over his resolve. What if he stepped into the rift between his two lives only to be rejected by both? Would the discussion ignite disdain or understanding? The consequences would be significant, and the stakes had never felt higher. As they left the coffee shop, Ethan's heart raced as the possibilities of personal and professional development unfurled before him. But one thought kept returning, a nagging whisper in the back of his mind. What if his greatest obstacle was not the outside world but the deep-seated beliefs of his family? Determined but wary, he took a deep breath, brushing off doubt. But soon he would face a moment of truth that could alter the course of his journey entirely. His next steps waited like an unseen precipice, steep and ready to plunge him into an uncertain future. Ethan's phone buzzed as he walked down the street, the sun dipping low and casting a warm glow across the pavement. It was a message from Maria. Let's meet tomorrow to strategize. We need your core message. He paused, finger hovering over the screen. She was counting on him, and he felt an unsettling blend of excitement and dread. The prospect of structuring a narrative that would connect with the community and potential supporters filled him with purpose. Yet the thought of confronting his family about his new endeavor loomed large. The shadows of expectations were never far behind, their weight increasing with every step he took toward redefining his path. At home, the familiar sounds of clinking dishes and laughter echoed from the kitchen. Ethan hesitated at the door, his heart racing. This was where he had always felt anchored, but now he felt like a ship untethered, ready to voyage into unfamiliar seas. He could hear his father's voice booming over the soft chatter, regaling the family with tales of business acumen and success. "Ethan, there you are," his father called, a grin spreading across his face as he turned to embrace him. "We were just discussing the new investment opportunities." "Sounds great, Dad," Ethan replied, forcing a smile, his thoughts shifting to the future he envisioned. His father's unwavering belief in traditional business models was a tenacious barrier standing in his way, an immovable boulder that needed to be circumvented if he was to forge a new narrative. As the evening wore on, Ethan found himself half listening to conversations about profits and growth. He was physically present, yet emotionally miles away. Each anecdote regarding business strategies felt laden with reminders of the expectations tethered to his last name. Would he be viewed as a traitor for exploring different avenues? The clamor of dinner subsided naturally, as if inviting silence for contemplation. He felt the urge to speak, to share what was brewing inside him. But the moment slipped away, consumed by the warmth of their familial bond. Instead, he offered thoughtful nods, weighing the burden of conformity against the yearning for authenticity. That night he lay awake in bed, thoughts racing. The more he wrestled with his internal conflict, the more apparent the truth became. He needed to stand firm in his beliefs. Shaping the communication around his new project would require a bridge. His voice would have to resonate through the familiar walls of tradition, challenging norms while inviting understanding. He grabbed a notebook from his desk and began scribbling ideas. A compelling opening that encapsulated urgency, the stories of the people needing support, and how these were interconnected with the high-stakes world of his father's business pursuits. He needed a hook that would spark interest, bridging the gap between his two worlds rather than tearing them apart. As he moved through the bullets of his message, a realization dawned. If he was going to succeed, he had to confront the reality of his family's views head-on. They might resist, misunderstanding his mission initially, but progress was seldom a comfortable journey. The next day he met Maria at the local park, a soft breeze ruffling through the trees. They sat on a weathered bench and began to distill his polished thoughts into a cohesive plan. Each word he penned felt like a stone paving the path to an uphill struggle. Yet each stroke of the pen illuminated his purpose more clearly. What if you don't just present facts but share a personal story to pull at their heartstrings? Maria asked, leaning forward, absorbing the intensity of his energy. Let them see who you are and what drives you. Ethan paused, his mind racing over memories of days spent with those in need, their hopes, laughter, and resilience. He could feel the thickening air between them, charged with the realization that this wasn't merely about advocacy. It was about authenticity, confronting both his beliefs and his family's apprehensions. I'll tell my story. I'll weave it in, he replied, the conviction rising within him. It's not just their hope that's at stake, it's mine too. Yet deep inside, darkness whispered, what if this attempt led to rejection? What if he lost his family in the process? As they strategized, that unshakable unease crept in, and he struggled to silence it. The time had come for Ethan to place his new self into the crucible of family expectations. There was no easy resolution possible, but the very act of stepping forward bore its own kind of promise. And as they wrapped up the brainstorming session, one thought pierced through the lingering self-doubt, a potent reminder that both exploration and challenge fuel personal growth. Tomorrow held its promise of preliminary confrontation, and as he prepared to step into this next chapter of his life, Ethan realized that the future depended not just on his ambitions, but on the courage he wielded to reveal his true self. Would he really embrace the roles of advocate and son simultaneously, or would family loyalty cloud his judgment? Ethan woke up to the light filtering through the curtains, the day heavy with possibilities. Today was more than just another day. It held the potential for transformation. He could feel the tension coiling within his chest, a tightness that resonated with both fear and anticipation, as he mentally rehearsed his opening lines. Yet, despite the anxiety, there was a flicker of determination. He understood that this conversation would not be merely about his future, but a crucial moment that would demand authenticity. He gathered his thoughts, feeling the protective layers of routine begin to peel away, revealing a more decisive version of himself underneath. He dressed meticulously, choosing a blue shirt that he thought mirrored the calmness he was striving to convey. In front of the mirror, he practiced several expressions, ultimately opting for one that conveyed both strength and vulnerability. Today, he would need to invoke a sense of connection, not only to the people he hoped to serve but to his family, particularly his father, whose approval had always weighed heavily on his decisions. Ethan arrived at the kitchen to the tantalizing aroma of bacon and coffee. The ambiance was familiar, a backdrop that had played countless times over the years, but today it felt different. The laughter seemed lighter, almost jubilant, masking the tension he felt bubbling under the surface. "Ethan!" his mother beamed, looking up from the breakfast table. "You're just in time. We were hoping you'd join us to discuss the presentation for your father's latest business venture." "Actually, Mom, He hesitated, every fiber telling him to seize the moment. "I have something important to share with everyone." The chatter quieted as he spoke, the room's warmth fading slightly as eyes turned toward him. He took a deep breath, the weight of familial expectations pressing down on him. "Today I want to talk about something I believe is essential. Not just for me, but for all of us," Ethan began. The words hung in the air, a delicate balance teetering between hope and trepidation. "I've been working on a project that focuses on supporting those less fortunate within our community." The silence that followed was palpable. His father's brow furrowed, the mask of businesslike positivity slipping momentarily. Ethan pressed on. "I know this might not align with our family's business pursuits, but I believe in helping others as a core principle. There's a need, and I'd like to be a part of the solution. I want your support, not just as a businessman, but as a father." Each word eked out of him, heavy yet liberating. As he gauged their reactions, he felt a pang of fear crash over him. His father seemed poised on the edge of disbelief, an unexpected thundercloud in the familiar bright kitchen. "Ethan," his father interjected, a touch of frustration lacing his tone. "This is not how we do things. There's potential here, real profits to be made. Why divert your energy into something so uncertain?" Ethan's heart raced, the confrontation pushing him out of his comfort zone. For years he had molded himself to fit into the family's expectations, but now he stood as a beacon of divergence. "Dad, it's uncertain because it's new. But it also has the potential to create meaningful change, to build connections." He met his father's gaze directly, fighting the urge to look away as doubt gnawed at him. He didn't just want approval, he needed understanding. "What's meaningful about giving away funds? It's about growth and strategy," his father argued, reclaiming some authority over the discussion. "That's what I'm trying to convey," Ethan pressed. "It's not about money, it's about stories, lives, and creating impact. I'm asking you to view this opportunity through a different lens." His mother's eyes glistened. Perhaps she sensed the deep-rooted conflict between father and son. "William," she said softly, trying to steer the discussion, "maybe we should consider what Ethan is saying. There's a new world out there." The air thickened around them, a charged atmosphere where hearts yearned for reconciliation. Both men faced each other across the table, the gulf between their visions of success stark. Ethan braced himself, ready for an electric exchange that could unravel everything he held dear. As he prepared to respond, doubt flickered. Could his authenticity shine through in the face of such staunch opposition? And in that moment, he realized he might lose more than he anticipated. The conversation was just beginning, and each word had the potential to fracture their bond or forge a new understanding. Would he muster the courage to hold his ground, even if it meant confronting not just his father, but also the legacy that loomed over him? The silence in the kitchen buzzed with tension, as if the walls themselves waited to see which way the scales would tip. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. The moment stretched, dragging painfully. He needed to speak, to fight for his vision, but each second felt like another slip of resolve. "Ethan," his father's tone sharpened, cutting through the thick atmosphere. "You need to think critically. Deviating from our established path is not just naive. It's reckless." Ethan swallowed hard against the weight of those words, attempting to summon the resolve lying deep within. "Reckless? Or revolutionary?" he countered. "People are looking for something real. If we can meet that need, why shouldn't we step up?" He felt both exhilaration and desperation set his nerves alight. This was more than about money. It was a battle for his identity. "You talk of revolution, but you're risking our family's legacy," his father replied, steering his voice with calm authority. The irony gripped Ethan. His father was poring over the very foundation of his expectations, unyielding as ever. Ethan drew a breath, steeling himself. What if that legacy could include more than just profits? What if we could be known for how we impacted people's lives, not just their wallets? His thoughts scrambled together, forging a plan as he spoke, concepts crystallizing into a tangible vision. Imagine a partnership that resonates on a human level, where our name means something beyond commerce. The room's air felt electric, a crackle of power beneath debate. He garnered glances from his mother, whose supportive gaze inspired a surge in his chest. She saw his determination, the shift he was trying to bring. It was a small fragment of hope, yet vital. Ethan turned back to his father, locking eyes in resolute defiance. It's not reckless to challenge the norm. It's necessary. We can create a new legacy, one that reflects who we are as a family, compassionate, engaged, and responsive to those around us. William flinched, the tension palpable in his body language. So, what are you proposing? He asked, revealing a flicker of interest alongside his skepticism. Ethan seized the moment. We could launch a program that not only provides resources to the underprivileged but also develops their skills, empowering them to lift themselves out of hardship. It's about investing in people first. The thought ignited a fire within him, and he let it unfurl. What's our role? William continued, his words measuring the distance between their worlds. We're not a charity, we're a business. Ethan pressed onward, determined to construct a bridge. A new initiative within your company could redefine the very essence of who we are, and it would venture into uncharted territory where traditional business often fails. We could lead by example, leverage market opportunities where others only see risks. There's a whole demographic looking for companies that care, Dad. We could be pioneers. As his words filled the space, Ethan noticed effects swirling around him. His mother's shining eyes, his father's deliberate hesitation, the stir of doubt flitting through William's mind. For a moment, he dared to believe transformation was possible. Yet just as quickly his father's skepticism glinted through the haze of hope. And what makes you think anyone would trust you? He snapped. You're just a kid with a dream, grappling at straws. The sting of those words was like a lash, raw and cutting. Ethan's vision narrowed, boiling down into a singular point of focus. The very essence of his identity collided with his father's piercing judgment. Maybe I am, but that kid can see something you refuse to recognize. The world is changing, but we're still stuck in the past. His heart raced as he threw the verbal gauntlet down. Suddenly it was personal, about proving not just to his father but to himself that he was not that child lost in the shadow of expectations. Each second pulled tighter, drawing tension around them like a noose. I'm willing to risk it all to do what I believe is right, Ethan declared, feeling the weight of his resolve shift from timid to fierce. I won't give this up without a fight. William's expression hardened, but beneath the stoic visage lay an ember of uncertainty. Ethan held his breath, knowing the moment's fragility. Would his father finally see him, or would the gulf between them widen until it became insurmountable? With the stakes raised, each word exchanged meticulously, their foundation already trembling, Ethan recognized a pivotal truth slowly dawning. He was pulling back layers of himself that he had kept hidden in the name of familial loyalty. The confrontation reached fever pitch. What lay beyond this clash? Would he discover the strength to embrace the tumultuous nature of conflict, or find himself overwhelmed, leading to the unraveling of his very existence? The air hummed with urgency, and Ethan clenched his fists, bracing for the fallout, knowing everything was on the line. Ethan could feel the atmosphere in the kitchen shift, each heartbeat magnifying the weight of what was at stake. The potential for transformation loomed like an uncharted horizon, teetering ominously on the edge of uncertainty. He realized he had crossed a threshold, not just in his conversation with William, but within himself. This moment demanded more than just words. It required action. Trust me, he said, his voice steadier now, carving through the murky air. This isn't just a whim. I've been researching companies that have embraced social responsibility in unprecedented ways. They thrive because they engage with their communities. We can do it too. William's brow furrowed, the lines etching deeper as he processed his son's proposal. You think just because a few companies did it, we can? That's not how the real world works. Exactly, Ethan shot back, inching closer to the edge of his ideas spilling into reality. That's the point. They transformed their businesses by adapting to what the world needs right now. If we hold on to the past, we'll become relics, nothing more than shadows of what we once were. He watched as his father's defensive posture faltered for a split second, revealing the hesitation beneath the armor of familial expectations. In that moment, Ethan recognized an opportunity. He needed to capitalize on that flicker of doubt. A sense of urgency pressed against his chest, and he knew he needed to harness that spark of uncertainty. What if we set up a pilot program? He proposed, allowing the flicker of excitement to dance in his voice. We could allocate a percentage of our profits to support education and skills training for underserved communities. We wouldn't have to overhaul the company overnight. Instead, we start small, build connections, and expand based on what we learn. William shifted, his expressions cascading across his face like shadows, revealing disbelief but also intrigue. And if it fails? What then, Ethan? You can't just wish positive change into existence. The doubt gnawed at him, but Ethan had a response ready. What if we succeed? What if we create something truly lasting, something that defines us? The true failure would be to never try. Another tension-laden silence enveloped the room. Ethan felt vulnerable now, exposing himself not just as a son fighting for recognition, but as an entrepreneur yearning to craft a legacy his father could respect, something beyond mere profits. As he looked at his father, he dug deeper, confronting the doubts that blossomed in his mind. Maybe he was diving into waters unknown, but wasn't there value in venturing away from the familiar? Risk often birthed innovation, and he had a deep-seated belief that their family could reshape their identity in the process. Let's bring in some experts for a workshop, he continued, unwittingly picking up speed. We can tap into local organizations that have seen success. We don't reinvent the wheel, we take inspiration, adapt, and build our framework from there. This can be a collaborative effort. They can guide us, and we prove that we care about our community and our legacy. The kernels of Ethan's ideas grew roots in the moment, branching out and capturing the attention of both his parents. He felt charged by their reactions, especially the subtle nods of intrigue from his mother, who had remained silently supportive throughout the exchange. If this is just a trend to you, I'm sorry, William finally said, his voice quieter, but still laden with skepticism. You'll have to understand this is my life's work at stake. Ethan leaned in closer, sensing the precarious balance of their discourse. And it's my future too, Dad. If I can't make a meaningful impact, then what's the point of continuing in the shadow of a legacy if I don't believe in it? He crafted every syllable with purpose, determined to communicate the core of his vision. Tension interlaced with possibility lingered in the air, both a challenge and an invitation. What would it take for William to see the potential for collaboration rather than conflict? I need you to trust me, Ethan implored, feeling the weight of expectation shift. Give me a chance to show that my vision isn't just an idealistic shout in the void. Let me prove it through action. Ethan felt sweat prickling at his brow, a mix of determination and uncertainty as he awaited his father's response. Would William align with this new narrative, nurturing the roots that Ethan desired to plant? Or would he fold, smothering the flames before they had a chance to ignite? The outcome loomed heavy on his heart as they sat amid the heavy silence, both waiting for the other to speak. In that pregnant pause, everything felt like a tipping point, teetering effortlessly between acceptance and rejection. Ethan could no longer ignore the hum of uncertainty that pulsed through him, a visceral reminder that dreams could shatter just as easily as they could take flight. The moment demanded an answer, and beyond it lay the unknown potential of his vision, an ignition that could either spark a revolution or fizzle into nothingness. The silence in the kitchen weighed on Ethan like a smothering blanket, thickening the air as he tried to discern William's thoughts. Was his father stewing in frustration, or contemplative, weighing the odds? Every second felt elongated, each tick of the clock amplifying Ethan's doubts. The prospect of failure loomed like a shadow, lurking in the corners of his mind, threatening to sap the energy from his newly ignited passion. Then, just as the tension peaked, William sighed deeply, brushing a hand through his hair. A gesture of resignation or contemplation. "All right, Ethan. We can set up a pilot program, but only if we establish clear milestones. If we don't meet them, we reassess entirely." Ethan's heart surged, a wave of relief washing over him. This was a foothold, a glimmer of hope that perhaps his vision could blossom into something tangible. "Absolutely. We'll start small and plan methodically. I'll begin drafting a proposal," Ethan replied, the tremor of uncertainty in his voice giving way to a stronger resolve. He was aware that this was merely the first step. More hurdles awaited, and the momentum had to be maintained with finesse. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the office shifted subtly. His parents gradually began to warm to the concept, engaging with him more in brainstorming sessions. Each discussion was a lesson in itself, the corporate intricacies both daunting and exhilarating. Ethan dove into research, poring over case studies, discussing strategies with colleagues who had been in the trenches of transformation. He found himself invigorated by his surroundings, each meeting infused with the creative synergy he had long desired. The prospect of actualizing his ideas felt liberating, but it was also daunting. Would he rise to meet the demanding expectations they set forth, or would he falter under the pressure? As days turned into weeks, he faced moments that threatened to shake his newfound confidence. One evening, an expert he had contacted regarding their pilot program, a non-profit leader known for her transformative work, called him. Her voice radiated challenge. "Ethan, change isn't easy, especially for a legacy business. It can get uncomfortable, and many don't embrace discomfort willingly. Are you prepared for resistance?" Her question weighted heavily on his chest. Could he navigate the pushback he knew would come, especially from within the walls of his own family? Self-doubt bubbled to the surface, gnawing at the edges of his determination. This moment was pivotal. "Can you trust that we're making the right choice?" he murmured, reaching toward affirmations that felt increasingly elusive. "Ethan, trust has to be earned. You must demonstrate purpose and consistency," she replied, and the line went dead. He sank into thoughts that night, mulling over the gravity of expectations placed on him. The realization struck like lightning. He needed to ensure he wasn't merely chasing validation. Driven by that epiphany, Ethan spent hours drafting a clear strategic proposal detailing their pilot program. It was more than just an outline. It was a pledge to himself, a commitment to the genuine principles behind change. Presenting his finalized proposal to his parents felt monumental. He stood in the office, the air electric with anticipation. This was his chance to substantiate his ideas, to illustrate that they could indeed initiate purposeful change. As he met William's gaze, he saw flickers of doubt mingled with something akin to pride, perhaps a recognition of their shared legacy. "It's ambitious," William remarked, the steel lacing his words, softened by intrigue. "That's the point," Ethan replied, driven by the vision in his heart. "We could define who we are, not just as a business but as a family legacy." The conversation shifted as his parents delved into the specifics. It was a step forward, one that inspired hope and reinforced Ethan's belief that adaptability could breed resilience. Yet as the discussions progressed, internal tension bubbled beneath the surface. The stakes now felt higher than ever, not just for him, but for the identity and future of their family business. Ethan suddenly found himself backed into a corner. Was he willing to confront the fundamental principles that had ruled his family's legacy? As his parents engaged eagerly, mapping out the next steps, Ethan's mind raced with the challenges that loomed ahead. Everything hinged on his ability to navigate this changing landscape. But with each potential milestone announced, doubt threatened to surge back. What if he couldn't deliver? Unbeknownst to him, the real test was yet to come, and as the shadows of uncertainty coiled tighter around him, Ethan stood ready to make his next move, unaware that the real resistance was not an external force, but a reflection of the unyielding expectations he harbored within. Was he truly prepared to redefine the expectations that had long defined him? or would the pressure of legacy suffocate his aspirations? Ethan Reynolds stood in the boardroom, a gleaming modern space that mirrored the ambition of the family business. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished conference table. It was the moment he had prepared for, yet an undercurrent of trepidation ran through him. Today would mark the culmination of weeks spent crafting his vision, a pilot program aimed at bridging the social divide. Around the table sat his parents, William and Clara, alongside key board members and advisors. Their faces reflected a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Victory hinged on his ability to articulate not only what he envisioned, but why it mattered. He gathered the scattered notes and research he had compiled and steadied himself. "Thank you all for being here," Ethan began, voice firm yet laced with undeniable emotion. He'd come to understand that speaking from the heart was not just effective, it was transformative. Today, I want to share an initiative that has the potential to redefine our legacy. As he unveiled the proposal, Ethan observed his father's furrowed brow and narrowed eyes, remnants of the skepticism that had initially met his efforts. Yet, there was something different. A flicker of anticipation, perhaps, an openness he hadn't seen before. "This is not just about philanthropy," he emphasized. "It's about aligning our business strategy with community needs. By investing in education and skill development for underserved populations, we enter new markets and potential consumer bases, while doing what feels urgently necessary." He felt the power of his choice reverberate through the room. "This is a chance to model corporate responsibility in a way that speaks to the current generation," he said, encouraging them to visualize the impact. "Imagine our name being synonymous with integrity, progress, and meaningful change." As he navigated through case studies illustrating successful models of impact-driven companies, Ethan noticed the heads of several board members nodding along, absorbing his words. This was his moment. He'd crafted a narrative that tied their family business to something larger than profits. Large firms are being scrutinized for their impact. By leading in this area, we can set a precedent in the industry, he concluded, offering the room a confident yet genuine smile. Silence enveloped the boardroom, the weight of his proposition settling in. Then, unexpectedly, his father finally spoke, his voice strict but layered with consideration. "Ethan, you're asking us to step away from traditional business principles. What assurance do you have that this will yield the results you propose?" The question electrified the air. Was this an attack or a challenge? "What I can promise," Ethan replied, meeting William's intensity with resolve, "is that we'll create measurable milestones assessing both social impact and financial return. This isn't about abandoning our foundation, it's about evolving as a family and organization." Ethan's heart raced, feeling the tension ripple through his body. Was this moment of connection genuine? Did his father see beyond a deviation toward an opportunity and shared purpose? After a moment laden with contemplation, William exhaled slowly. "I want to believe you. But this requires all of us to shift perspective significantly." Ethan took a leap of faith. "I'm prepared to lead by example, to dedicate myself fully to this initiative. This isn't merely a project, it's a commitment to our values." Finally, it was Clara who broke the weighty silence. "I think your vision is inspiring, Ethan. We need to adapt to the changing landscape. It's time we use our resources to uplift others, not just ourselves." With those words, the boardroom atmosphere shifted. A palpable acceptance hung in the air. They engaged in a spirited discussion about logistics and partnerships, charts mapping the unfolding change on the whiteboard, a collaborative force taking shape in front of him. Ethan felt triumph wrapping around him. This was no longer just his ambition, it was a family endeavor, a chance for each member to contribute to something truly impactful. Within moments, William nodded firmly, extending his hand. "Let's do this. You lead, and we'll support you." The warmth of that affirmation infused Ethan with a solid confidence that swelled within him. He had proved not only his competence but also demonstrated courage in advocating for genuine change. Finally, the shackles of inherited expectations began to dissolve as a collective sense of purpose took root. In the days that followed, Ethan rolled up his sleeves alongside his parents, strategizing fundraising approaches, forging alliances with local organizations, and galvanizing resources. Each milestone met further fueled his sense of fulfillment, a testament to what authentic leadership could achieve within their business model. As the launch day of the pilot program approached, Ethan stood once again in front of the community center where he had first connected with the struggles of others. He felt a warm surge of pride wash over him. Not only had he manifested his ambitions, but he had united his family in the process, aligning their legacy with profound purpose. He envisioned the changes they could make and saw tangible results reflected within the community. Ethan had traversed far from the boy torn between wealth and authenticity. He had proven himself capable of creating not only a partnership between disparate worlds, one of privilege and one of struggle, but had established his own voice and undeniable identity. Standing proudly alongside Maria, who had been an unwavering source of support, he saw the transformation in himself reflected in the lives of those around him. Today marked not just a victory in the boardroom but a fundamental shift in his trajectory, a merging of heart and purpose. Here, in the very space where he had once doubted himself, Ethan Reynolds understood the immense power of genuine connection and the obligation that came with privilege. He was not merely the heir to a legacy, but its transformation agent, a torchbearer of change. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a promising journey where ambition intertwined with empathy, shaping the future they had only begun to imagine. And as the sun set over the community center, Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction envelop him, a symbol of what he had achieved and a reminder that true success lay in the impact he could make, bridging worlds and transforming lives. If you're inspired by Ethan's story and want to support more transformative journeys like his, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that button to never miss exclusive emotional stories that ignite change. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and share this journey of personal growth with others who need motivation. We want to hear from you. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Ethan's evolution and the pivotal moments of courage. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It only takes a second to spread inspiration. Let's keep pushing the envelope of personal transformation together.